Mummy Pig prepares for a shopping trip to the store. An ordinary morning turns into a nightmare beyond imagination. The bag disappears right from her hands mysteriously. A white shadow slides around the corner of the house like a ghost. Mummy runs after the thief desperately. Blue lights flicker in the darkness of the narrow alley ahead. Labubu stands at the end of the street with the bag. His blue eyes with crosses glow unnaturally bright. Mummy approaches cautiously, but Labubu backs away slowly. He beckons her to follow him with his furry paw. They find themselves in an unfamiliar part of town. Windows glow with the same eerie blue light everywhere. Labubu turns the corner and disappears completely. Mummy hurries after him but ends up in a dead end. The walls of the dead end begin to narrow slowly. Mummy realizes this is a carefully planned trap. Labubu appears on the roof of a house above. He shakes his head as if saying, "No," mockingly. Mummy shouts loudly, demanding the bag back. Her voice echoes off the walls, growing fainter and fainter. Labubu jumps down and lands directly in front of her. His smile becomes wider and more frightening than before. He holds out the bag temptingly, but it dissolves in the air. Mummy grabs desperately at emptiness around her. Labubu circles around her in a hypnotic dance. He becomes more and more transparent with each turn. Mummy tries to run away frantically, but her legs won't obey. An invisible supernatural force holds her tight. Labubu whispers something in an unknown ancient language. The words penetrate her mind and stay there forever. The walls begin to glow with blue light intensely. Mummy realizes she has entered his supernatural world. Labubu disappears completely, leaving only an echo of laughter. Mummy is alone in the glowing maze now. She wanders through the endless corridors desperately. All paths lead to nowhere and back again endlessly. At home, the worried family searches for Mummy everywhere. Peppa and George cry by the window sadly. Daddy walks around the entire town asking everyone. Nobody has seen Mummy Pig anywhere today at all. In the blue world, Mummy finds many lost things. Everything belongs to Labubu now and forevermore. She has become part of his collection permanently, forever trapped in his world where time stands still. A sunny morning illuminates the Pig family house. Everyone is preparing for a trip to the neighboring town. Daddy Pig loads suitcases into the car. Today they are going to visit Auntie Pig. Peppa and George jump excitedly near the car. The adventure excites them very much. Mummy Pig checks the luggage. She feels a strange uneasiness. The car leaves the familiar neighborhood. The landscape becomes dark and desolate. The sky is covered with clouds. The sun disappears. The air becomes cold. They enter an unfamiliar town. The streets are empty, houses abandoned. A strange figure stands on the corner. It's Labubu with glowing red eyes. Labubu turns his head, watching the car. His gaze pierces right through. Peppa notices the creature and points. When others look, Labubu disappears. The family arrives at Auntie Pig's house. The house is gloomy, windows covered with curtains. Auntie meets them at the door. Her eyes are full of fear. She tells about strange events. Residents disappear at night. Labubu appears in the window across. He stares intently at the family. George cries for no reason. His dinosaur falls and breaks. In the evening, the family dines by candlelight. The electricity went out. It became dark. Shadows move by themselves. They take the shape of Labubu. Peppa sees red eyes. They burn and watch movements. Mummy tries to calm the children, but her voice trembles with horror. Labubu appears in the room. He slowly approaches the family. Daddy tries to protect everyone, but hands pass through Labubu. Labubu reaches out to the children. His smile becomes more terrifying. Everything disappears. The family wakes up in the car. They fell asleep on the road. A Labubu medallion lies on the seat. Nobody remembers where it came from. Peppa Pig's neighborhood always seemed like the perfect place. But today, something strange moved into the house next door. A bright yellow moving truck arrived early morning. The new neighbor looked friendly enough from distance. It was SpongeBob with his square shape and smile. Peppa and George watched excitedly from their window. Mummy Pig suggested they welcome their new neighbor properly. The family prepared a basket of fresh cookies. Daddy Pig knocked on SpongeBob's door with enthusiasm. The yellow sponge answered with an unusually wide grin. SpongeBob's eyes seemed different up close, but nobody noticed. He thanked them politely for the warm welcome. The first week passed peacefully without any problems. SpongeBob waved cheerfully every morning from his garden. Peppa invited SpongeBob over for afternoon tea and games. He accepted the invitation with that same strange smile. During tea time, SpongeBob's laugh echoed strangely through house. It sounded hollow and somehow mechanical in nature. George noticed SpongeBob never blinked during their conversation. His eyes remained fixed like glass marbles. That night, Peppa heard weird scratching sounds next door. The noises continued until early morning hours. The next day, SpongeBob's garden looked completely different. All flowers had turned an unnatural shade. Susie Sheep came to visit but felt uncomfortable. She whispered that something felt terribly wrong. Pedro Pony refused to play when SpongeBob was around. He claimed the yellow neighbor made him sick. Strange things began happening around the neighborhood frequently. Toys disappeared and reappeared in impossible places. Children started having nightmares about a grinning yellow face. The dreams felt too real to be imagination. SpongeBob's house glowed with eerie light every night. Red shadows danced behind his curtained windows. Peppa finally looked closely into SpongeBob's eyes one evening. They were completely black with tiny red dots. His smile never changed, even when nobody watched. It remained frozen in that unnatural position. The neighborhood children began avoiding SpongeBob's house completely, but he continued watching from his window. Late at night, residents heard his mechanical laughter. It came from everywhere and nowhere at once. SpongeBob still waves from his garden every morning. But now everyone knows something is wrong. Peppa's house always seemed like the safest place in the world. But tonight something sinister lurks behind the glowing screen. Peppa sits comfortably watching her favorite SpongeBob cartoon. The familiar yellow character dances happily on screen. Suddenly, the television screen begins to flicker strangely. SpongeBob's cheerful smile slowly transforms into something terrifying. Red eyes replace the innocent blue ones. Sharp teeth emerge where a gentle smile used to be. The evil SpongeBob presses against the screen from inside. Glass begins to crack under his supernatural pressure. With a horrifying crash, the monster breaks through. Evil SpongeBob emerges into Peppa's living room. Peppa screams in terror as the nightmare becomes reality. The creature towers over her with glowing red eyes. Evil SpongeBob's laugh echoes through the house menacingly. His sharp teeth gleam in the dim light. Mama Pig rushes downstairs, hearing Peppa's frightened cries. She freezes, seeing the terrifying yellow monster. The evil creature turns his attention to Mama Pig. His red eyes burn with malicious intent and hunger. Papa Pig appears but immediately backs away in horror. The family huddles together against the supernatural threat. Evil SpongeBob begins to grow larger and more threatening. His presence fills the entire room with darkness. The monster reaches out with twisted yellow hands. He wants to drag the family into his television world. Peppa tries to run but finds herself trapped. Evil SpongeBob blocks every escape route with supernatural speed. The creature opens a portal back to the television. Dark energy swirls around the glowing screen menacingly. One by one, family members are pulled toward the portal. They cannot resist the evil SpongeBob's supernatural power. Peppa watches helplessly as her parents disappear into the screen. She realizes she will be next victim. Evil SpongeBob grabs Peppa with his cold yellow hands. She feels herself being dragged toward the television portal. The living room becomes empty and silent once more. Only the flickering television remains as evidence. Inside the screen, the family is trapped forever. They can only watch as evil SpongeBob seeks new victims. The television turns itself on every night automatically. Evil SpongeBob waits patiently for unsuspecting children. His red eyes scan through the screen constantly. The monster searches for his next innocent victims. Peppa Pig's house always seemed peaceful at night, but something sinister watched from the darkness outside. George lay in his bed, clutching Mr. Dinosaur tightly. A terrifying shadow appeared at his bedroom window. The green figure waved slowly at frightened George. Evil Shrek smiled with glowing red eyes menacingly. George trembled under his warm blanket covers. The monster gestured for him to come outside. Night after night, Shrek returned faithfully watching. George watched in terror from his bed. George ran to Peppa's room, crying desperately. She rolled her eyes at his silly stories. At breakfast, George told his worried parents. Daddy Pig laughed at the wild imagination. Mummy Pig patted George's head, gently smiling. Everyone thought he was just dreaming nightmares. Peppa teased George about his imaginary monster. She called him a silly little brother. Grandpa Pig visited for Sunday dinner together. George begged him to believe the truth. Even wise Grandpa shook his head sadly. Nobody took George's warnings seriously anymore. The waving continued every single dark night. Shrek's smile grew wider each time. George stopped telling anyone about the visits. Fear consumed his tiny pig heart completely. Dark circles appeared under George's tired eyes. He barely slept or ate anymore. Peppa noticed George acting very strange lately, but she ignored his frightened behavior completely. One stormy night, Shrek beckoned more urgently. His red eyes burned brighter than ever before. George felt an invisible force pulling him. He walked toward the bedroom window slowly. The window opened by itself, mysteriously wide. Cold wind rushed into the room violently. George climbed onto the windowsill very slowly. Shrek's hand reached out for him eagerly. Morning came, but George wasn't in bed. His bed remained empty and cold forever. Peppa found Mr. Dinosaur abandoned on floor. The toy pointed toward the open window. The family searched everywhere, desperately calling his name. But George had vanished without trace. Police found only muddy footprints outside house. They led into the dark forest depths. The house fell silent without little George. His empty chair haunted every meal sadly. Sometimes at night, Peppa hears strange sounds, someone waving at her bedroom window now. Peppa Pig's house always seemed like a safe place, warm and cozy. But none of its inhabitants suspected what dark secrets were hidden here. A strange toy appeared in the children's room. Labubu watched the sleeping children with red eyes. Peppa woke up from a terrible whisper. Labubu stood motionless by her bed. George reached for the mysterious toy. Labubu lured him with his sinister smile. A quarrel began between brother and sister. Each wanted to take Labubu for themselves. Mummy Pig heard the children's screams. Strange silence reigned in the room. Daddy Pig came to calm the little ones. Labubu disappeared as if dissolved into thin air. Grandpa Pig told scary stories about demons that hide in toys. Granny Pig noticed red traces. They led from the nursery to the attic. Madame Gazelle at kindergarten looked worried. She knew something about Labubu. Susie Sheep was afraid to play with Peppa. Labubu watched them from the darkness. Pedro Pony ran home in tears. Labubu showed him his true essence. Strange sounds began in the house at night. Labubu came alive and wandered the corridors. George disappeared from his bed. Labubu dragged him to the basement. Peppa searched for her brother everywhere. Red eyes watched her from every corner. A portal to another world opened in the basement. Labubu showed his demonic face. The family gathered to save George, but Labubu was stronger than them all. Grandpa Pig spoke an ancient spell. Labubu howled with rage and pain. The portal began pulling the demon back. Labubu clung to our world with claws. George returned to his family unharmed, but his eyes now glowed red. Labubu disappeared but left his mark. Eternal fear settled in the house. Peppa could no longer sleep peacefully. She knew the demon would return. The mirror reflected not George, but a little demon with red eyes. The family moved to a new house, but Labubu was already waiting for them there.